Named for Dame Christabel Pankhurst, one of our most iconic alumni, the Pankhurst Institute for Health Technology, Research and Innovation will channel the research strengths of the University of Manchester, developing groundbreaking technology that'll revolutionise health and care. A unique partnership between the university, NHS, business and local government, it'll form an important part of the Greater Manchester health innovation ecosystem, working together to translate world-leading research into new products and services to improve lives. Set in the heart of the Oxford Road Health and Life Science District, the Institute's hub building will be a place where scientists, engineers, clinicians, businesses and patients come together to shape the future. From artificial intelligence to improve diagnosis from medical images, to nanomaterials to target the delivery of drugs to the site of disease. From digital assistance to help individuals manage chronic conditions, to new materials to help repair damaged or diseased tissues and organs. Powered by the university's research strengths in digital technologies and advanced materials, and capitalising on Greater Manchester's integrated care system, the Pankhurst will find innovative solutions to the most pressing health and care challenges. Alongside its mission to improve health and care, the Pankhurst will be a driver for economic growth, generating new businesses, attracting inward investment, and adding to the vitality of Greater Manchester's Health Innovation District. Welcome to the Christabel Pankhurst Institute for Health Technology, Research and Innovation. Join us on the journey and help us make a difference.
Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Nancy Rothwell and I'm President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Manchester, and it's my pleasure to officially launch the Pankhurst Institute. This is an important part of the university's mission to improve lives and help to drive economic growth in Greater Manchester. It's the result of our strong partnership with Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and we seek to apply the university's research strengths to address public service innovation and business growth opportunities. Pankhurst developed from our own strengths in health innovation, digital technologies and advanced materials, and it was identified in the Greater Manchester Local Industrial Strategy as an investment opportunity. As you've heard, the Institute will work closely with Greater Manchester's integrated health and care system to drive innovation. It'll work with companies to support and grow the already flourishing health and life science ecosystem. This launch represents the fruition of a long-standing ambition and vision for the university, and we need to acknowledge the support of our founding partners. Of course, the Greater Manchester Combined Authority and the Local Growth Fund for strategic and financial support. Health Innovation Manchester, that will play a crucial role in supporting a robust translational pathway from basic research to deployment in health and care. Manchester Science Partnerships, which will bring support for business outreach and scale up and help attract inward investment. Manchester University NHS Foundation Trust, that hosts the City Lab development, where the Institute will have both a business and an NHS-facing presence. We'd also like to acknowledge funding from Manchester Science Partnerships, EPSRC, the Turing Institute and the University of Manchester endowments, all of which was critical in reaching this point. And thank you to the many funders who support our health technology research and innovation work. We hope that today will mark the beginning of a new phase in the development of the Institute, and we very much look forward to welcoming new partners over coming months. I'm now delighted to hand over to the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. Andy.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy. It's wonderful to join everyone today, and on behalf of the wider Greater Manchester community, I want to say how proud we are to support the new Institute, the University of Manchester, and all of our partners and friends behind it. It's wonderful to see the Pankhurst name having yet another manifestation into another century. It's an important statement, actually, that the Institute carries the Pankhurst name, it says that Manchester is a place that will celebrate and promote the leadership role of women in science and technology. And I hope that's a statement that's heard loud and clear, not just throughout our own country, but internationally as well. From what I know of Christabel, she was uncompromising in what she believed. And certainly I think we will need to be the same in our pursuit of good health for the population of Greater Manchester coming out of the pandemic. I think COVID-19 has brutally exposed some of the weaknesses that the country has, and quite shocking inequality. The death rate in the Northwest, 167 per 100,000, much higher than the Southeast, 97, or the Southwest, 64. So there is a real health divide, and I hope the Institute will work to reduce it. I think coming out of the pandemic, we will need to think differently about health, how we build health in people's lives, in their homes, in their workplaces, in their communities. And I'm so pleased that the Institute has a commitment to reducing health inequalities through research, technology, and innovation, and translating it into practice. And we think that's such an important statement coming out of this global pandemic. Of course, it unites a number of the great strengths in Greater Manchester's industrial strategy: digital, advanced materials, and of course, health innovation. And we think the Institute, by bringing those sectors together, will create a flourishing culture of health innovation around the university and the Oxford Road corridor. It will be a big statement of our industrial ambitions and a huge asset to Greater Manchester's economy, as Nancy said, bringing in new investment, creating high quality jobs. But of course, will give so much to Greater Manchester society in bringing some of those health innovations and making them available to the Greater Manchester population and improving health here. So we're really excited about it. I'm so glad that I've been able to join everybody today. I wish the university and everybody who will be associated with the Institute well. And Nancy, I will hand back to you.
Thank you, Andy. And I think I now hand to Chris Taylor.
Hi everyone, many thanks to Nancy and Andy for kicking off the formal launch of the Christabel Pankhurst Institute for Health Technology Research and Innovation. I'm Chris Taylor. I haven't put it on presentation mode for some reason. And I'm interim director of the Institute. This is the programme for the remainder of the event. Ben Bridgewater and I will give a bit more detail about the Institute and how it will work with Health Innovation Manchester. That will be followed by a question and answer panel session, of which I'll say more in a moment. Following the Q&A, there will be 3 presentations on key technology areas. And then finally, Richard Deed will give an introduction to an ERDF project led by Health Innovation Manchester, through which they and we will provide support for companies in the health innovation sector. So we want to give you the opportunity to get involved in the event, not just sit there listening. So there are 2 mechanisms. First, can you please open the Q&A window, which you can access via the icon that you'll find at the bottom of your screens. And then when you've opened it, we'd like you to enter to typing questions for the Q&A session. Everyone will be able to see the questions, and you'll be able to vote on ones that you'd particularly like to see answered, moving them up the list. If we don't get through all of them, we'll provide written answers after the event. We'd also like you to open the chat window and use it to give us ideas for something the Institute should do. Don't feel inhibited. Big ideas or small ideas are equally welcome. We'd just like to give you the opportunity to make input. The Institute will involve an investment of at least £25 million over 5 years. Crucially, it's a multi-sector partnership between the university, Greater Manchester Combined Authority, Health Innovation Manchester, Manchester Science Partnerships, and the Manchester University NHS Foundation Trust. Our vision is of a profoundly multidisciplinary institute for health technology research and innovation, which will build on the university's research strengths in digital technology, AI, and advanced materials to achieve impact in health and care, will increase the involvement of our scientists and engineers in research that targets real health and care needs, and it will accelerate translation into practice from basic ideas to deployment. Some of the funding will be used to develop a dedicated hub building for the Institute at the heart of the university campus, with a contribution of £5 million from the Greater Manchester Local Growth Fund. Thank you. And that's due to open in 2022. That will be complemented by a hub in the Manchester Science Partnership City Labs 4 development on the Manchester Foundation Trust site to provide a business and NHS-facing presence. So why do we think this is important, and why now? Most importantly, health technology is a team sport. There are multiple barriers along the way from an initial idea to deployment in the health and care system. And success depends on bringing together teams from different disciplines and sectors. We want the university to play an active role, working with our partners to make a real difference. Now, because the pandemic has highlighted the opportunity and imperative for change. It's exposed fragilities and inequalities in the health and care system, but it's also provided a glimpse of what might be possible with technology playing a positive role in responding to the challenge. So there's a pressing need to close the gap between what's possible and the way our health and care system currently works, with a key role for technology. And finally, we're ready. We've marshaled the university's resources and we're keen to help to build a broader community, develop new collaborations, and work with others to build new ideas. So to our plans. We want to build a community of practice, engaging with companies, care providers, funders, charities, and with academics from across a broad spectrum. Working with our partners, we want to develop a shared understanding of key health and care needs and opportunities to focus our activity where it will make a difference. We want to bring our scientists and engineers together with clinicians, patients, and businesses to co-create innovative solutions. And critically, we want to provide robust and comprehensive support across the translational pathway, from the initial idea through to deployment. This will be underpinned by research involving all three of the university's faculties. Central will be translational research to generate health impacts from our basic research in digital technologies, AI, and advanced materials. Implementation science will aim to better understand translational pathways and the factors that lead to success. Health economics will help us understand and predict the likely impacts when health technologies are deployed. Evaluation and assessment methodologies will address the challenge of generating evidence to support moving along the pathway towards deployment. And social and behavioural science will help us understand the social impacts of technology when it works, concerns over confidentiality and security, and its role in addressing inequalities. So today is about asking you to get involved. Our website is live and you can find more information there. It will allow you to sign up as part of the community, and we have a dedicated email address if you want to discuss engaging more seriously. Thank you for listening.
Well, thanks very much. It's an honour to be joining this this panel today, and thanks very much, Nancy, Andy, and Chris. I've titled my bit of the jigsaw "The Importance of the Pankhurst Institute to the Health Innovation Manchester Ecosystem," and I have to say that a year ago, the Pankhurst Institute sounded like a pretty good idea. But I have to say today, with all the things that we've all been working through over the last 12 months and will continue to work through, it seems an essential bit of the jigsaw to bring all the excellence that we have in these various disciplines sitting within the university together to rapidly do good for the people of Greater Manchester. I think the one thing that the COVID crisis has told us is that when you have a really compelling need to change, you can change very fast, and technology is at the heart of that, and critical to that is understanding that the problems that you're trying to solve. And I think the way the Pankhurst is developed and is being set up is perfectly designed to be able to do that. So I just want to say a word or two about how that will fit into the wider ecosystem that we've been developing in Greater Manchester. So I think we're very unusual in many ways in Greater Manchester. I think firstly, we have integrated health and care, and our conversations are not just about hospital care or primary care, but they're about hospital care, primary care, social care, and the wider determinants of health. And that rings through into all the discussions that we have. We're also very well configured as a health innovation ecosystem, because the providers, the commissioners, our health and care partners, local authorities, academia and industry are all involved in Health Innovation Manchester, and we see as their partners. And we try to work as one system, focusing specifically on the needs of our 2.8 million people within the city region. And I think we're unique for that purpose. So we have a whole bunch of strategic drivers in here, and some of these are health and care drivers, which come down from NHS England and NHS improvement, and some of these are wider issues. But we have national issues like the NHS long-term plan, the plans for next stages for integrated care, and of course the UK industrial strategy. And those are then interpreted locally with a Manchester accent, if you like, in terms of the Greater Manchester strategy, our plans for health and care at the next stages in our journey as an integrated care system, and also our local industrial strategy. And of course, that then pivots down into local people engaged with local services. And as such, we have to recognise that translation too. And this then feeds into the strategy of the things that we do, the innovations that we want to take forward. And critically, we recognise that digital technologies provide breakthrough opportunities, and we've seen a whole bunch of good examples in this through COVID. And actually, this should be at the forefront of our thinking. This should be the top of the shop, right on the front burner, not something that we consider as an optional extra as we progress. So what we've tried to do, and I think Chris made the point really well, is this stuff is a team sport. We talk in the digital world, digital drives collaboration. And actually we need to bring together clinical people with the expertise in providing those services. We need to truly understand the problems of both people delivering services, managing services, and those importantly user-centric design. In technology, you cannot do anything without working well with industry, and having great relationships with key partners is key to innovation. It's about having that research component sitting on top of that, digital driving through most things like a stick of rock, and then of course being very good at delivering what you say you're going to deliver at the right scale, at the right time, at the right price, with the right milestones being delivered. And those are the key things for getting transformational change at scale. So the framework that we use in Greater Manchester for this is that we recognise that there's a whole bunch of work done about digitisation, taking things off pieces of paper and sticking them onto technology. We recognise that unless you integrate that, you can't work properly as an integrated care system. You then need to use that data and that technology to empower people, and that's about empowering citizens and it's about empowering people providing care, and it's about providing information for people who are planning care so we can reform services. And then importantly is innovating on top of that so that you can actually make a difference in terms of the outcomes that you want to measure. But of course, there's a whole bunch of things in that. There's a whole bunch of bits of tech knocking around here. There's about apps here, and there's IoT data there, and there's AI over there, and all of these kind of things, these different components. But what's important is how you, as a chef, take those various ingredients and pull them together to have a recipe which really delivers people what they want to do. And at the heart, I think that's what Pankhurst will be doing, pulling together those ingredients to great recipes, which we can then scale up. So we have a model for how we take these things forward. You need to have lots of great ideas to have the killer thing which you're going to do, which is going to make the biggest difference. And we have a real structured approach to that, going from ideation on the left-hand side to delivering benefits at scale there. And of course, as this plays through, my bit of the jigsaw, Health Innovation Manchester's bit of the jigsaw, has a greater role towards the right-hand side than it does towards the left-hand side. But critically, I see some of the killer innovations that we're going to be taking forward over the coming years are going to be things which are going to be created on the left-hand side through the Pankhurst Institute. And then we're going to work in partnership to drive those things, to give those benefits to as many people as possible by having great innovations which deal with their needs. So again, we have a structured method for doing this. This isn't serendipity. We have a structured method with a series of qualification gates. We want to find great ideas from many different places, but we want to then place our bets in the right place by having a structured qualification process, which we do co-created with our partners in health and care and commissioning, to then make sure that we're effective at rolling out at scale on the far right-hand side of this integrated portfolio plan that we have. And of course, we have a lot of stuff in there that we're doing at the moment. And I see that Pankhurst will be driving a whole bunch of new innovations in very short order into those things where we get that greater deployment resource from the system to make sure those things add maximal benefit to the citizens. I won't run through these today, but I'm sure the slides will be shared. So key, of course, to this is taking the advantages from the GM culture and the GM structures to add maximal benefit through economic prosperity. And as people have already mentioned, we have a very clear local industrial strategy, which was based on the quality of the assets that we had in the first place. And of course, we have health innovation, advanced materials, digital creative and media in there as well. And I'd link clean growth into this stuff because a lot of the stuff we're doing in health innovation, I think will be very good for the environment as well as being very good for the economy. And again, Pankhurst will be one of the major drivers, I think, for delivering on that local industrial strategy. So that's all I wanted to say today. Be very keen to pick up any questions when we get to the panel session, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Ben. What we're going to do now is try and take a few of the questions, and there are numerous questions already. I've got 17 questions and numerous chats, so I'm going to be highly selective in what I choose in terms of questions, and highly selective in who I ask to answer them. Andy, I'm going to ask you a question first, Andy Burnham, because one of the issues is about how Pankhurst and the health agenda can fit into the Greater Manchester strategy, how it can be inclusive, and how we can break down barriers, whether they're between different parts of the healthcare system or more widely. This came up in quite a few of the comments, and it'd be really great to hear your vision for an inclusive Greater Manchester, if that's okay.
Thanks, that's a relief, Nancy. I'm a humble English graduate, so thank God you didn't ask me anything that veered anywhere beyond my knowledge into the realms of science. Now, I can talk about the vision for health in Greater Manchester. We obviously have that unique opportunity of having a measure of health devolution. And through the pandemic, our system has taken strides to the levels of integration have deepened, actually, and we have innovated during the pandemic. We have gone the further mile that we always wanted to go and create an integrated digital care record, health and care record for all 2.8 million citizens. So for any of the scientists or researchers listening to this today, think of that as a resource. It is a unique resource to have that access to a population that is now linked with a digital integrated health and care record. And that sort of shows how we're increasingly going. We want to see this as one system. So how can we really think, once you create one system, how then can you think differently about health, where health starts more in the home and you support people to live differently. I think, though, Nancy, to answer your question fully, it does go further. So we are very conscious of the inequalities that have been exposed by the pandemic, as I said at the beginning, on grounds of race and ethnicity, but also, of course, more broadly in terms of income. And we think this is a major question coming out of the pandemic for the country as a whole to embrace. And the only approach is to go for the Michael Marmot approach, which is health in all policies. How do we think differently about people's work, people's home environment, people's communities? How do we support people to be more active, to make active travel the first port of call? We think there are major questions that fall out of the pandemic that we will need your help in unpacking and making then a reality of a health in all policies approach to the way we develop our vision in Greater Manchester. So I just think we have a unique opportunity, don't we, with the devolution deal that we have, the levels of integration we already enjoy. I think the Institute can play a real role in pushing the boundaries of what that makes possible, and of really thinking through how we build health and the key word, resilience in our communities where it is currently weakest. And study after study in Greater Manchester, the Independent Prosperity Review being the most recent, has repeatedly identified how the poor health of a significant number of our population is one of the things that's holding back Greater Manchester. So, if levelling up is to mean anything, I think it starts in those communities and it starts with those people. And we think at that level about how we build health into people's everyday life. And I hope we can work together on that, Nancy, coming out of all of this.
Thanks very much indeed, Andy. And interestingly, we'll have a meeting with Michael Marmot tomorrow to discuss exactly how we bring inequalities into this.
Right.
I'm going to go to somebody who put their hand up because, and I don't know if she's still here, but it's Helen Pankhurst. And the name will rather give away her important role in the family's role. Helen, if you're with us, and we're going to see if we can get you to ask your question, then I'll come back to a couple of other questions. But I know you couldn't stay long, so I'm not quite sure if you're still here.
I am still here, actually.
Hello, Helen, welcome, and thank you for all your support.
Pleasure, really wonderful to see this. Love the fact that the interdisciplinary approach, love to see the use of the Pankhurst surname in this way. I think really, really important initiative. I guess my only point, and it's an inevitable one that I would be making, is, to what extent would you be monitoring and be really, really proactive about gender equality in terms of those involved in the Institute, as well as in the delivery of the change that you are aiming for. It's inevitable that I'd be making that point.
Of course it is. And how could a member of the Pankhurst family not ask that question? And thank you for allowing us to use the amazing name. The name is normally Emmeline, of course, but since Christabel was one of our graduates, we thought that was appropriate. Interestingly, just yesterday, the university launched its new equality, diversity and inclusion strategy, which brings it very much higher up the agenda, and something that's really, really important to us. So thank you for joining us, Helen. It's great that you could be here. If I may now, I'm going to ask a question. I'll probably ask it to both Chris and Ben. There are quite a lot of questions around engagement. And that's how to engage with industry, how to engage with entrepreneurs and startups, how to engage with patients, the wider communities. And I don't know, Chris, maybe you want to say something, and then Ben, I know this is something very dear to the heart of Health Innovation Manchester.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. I can perhaps take on a couple of these questions. Let me take the patient one first, because I think that should be central. And the answer is absolutely there will be patient and public in engagement and involvement in the Institute. We see that as absolutely critical to making it a success. And one of the things the Institute will do is to provide support to scientists and engineers who are not used to that kind of engagement in engaging properly with patient groups. And in the design of the building, the hub building, one of the things we've done is put in space that can be used for working with patient groups. We absolutely want to work with businesses, and the simple answer is drop us an email. We're very keen to develop those relationships. We're keen to have organisations who are more than passive partners in the Pankhurst. So please, any businesses who are interested, please get in touch, and we'll open a dialogue with you.
Thanks, Chris. Ben, did you want to add to that? Because obviously engagement's going to be an engagement with our students as well, of course.
Yeah, no, I would like to add to that. So I think there's something here about culture. And I think the world is a different world now because of ubiquitous technology, and you cannot do these days things on your own. So you have to have that right culture. You have to embrace working with others. You have to embrace working with patient groups. You have to embrace working with industry. And I think there's a real challenge for all of us in these organisations for actually having the right culture, so we are accessible to people. We can have those conversations, and we can invite people in and break down some of those walls which have traditionally existed to create that kind of culture of collaboration. I think there's something more fundamental which I would like to call out, and that's that I believe that the very kind of fabric of society is changing. Because of ubiquitous technology. Your relationships are determined by different things, often through your community of interest, through your social networking, as well as being kind of determined by where you happen to be born. And we see that. I certainly think through lockdown, and you see the way children behave through lockdown in terms of the connectivities they maintain. So I think there's something about truly understanding the nature of our societies and how societies is changing, which means that we can then design and craft new services, including digital services, but being clear that those digital services don't leave people behind. And that, I think, is going to be a key bit for the Pankhurst Institute, bringing together those different capabilities, research capabilities, which work wider across the University of Manchester.
Thank you very much indeed. And let me just say, I mean, the Pankhurst is one part of a big health and care ecosystem. It's addressing one part. But a question that's come up from a few, and Ben, I know you're actually working on a couple of specific projects on this, is how some of the digital innovations might help with mental health. Yeah,
so I would say that this is something that we're kind of, I'm not going to say we're dipping our toes in the water on. We're doing more than that, but I don't think we fully dived into the swimming pool on it, if you like. I think we recognise that maintaining connectivity between people with mental health issues and services through COVID has been critical, and we've put in place a whole bunch of platforms which connect people with those services in different kind of multi-channel kind of ways to keep those services open and keep people connected. But I think we're going to have to do so much more than that, because I think the COVID crisis is leaving us with a legacy of problems in this particular space. And I think we need to understand better what our populations are and actually what they need and what people want to access in that kind of way. So I think there's going to be a real growth area, both in terms of the analytics to understand who are the cohorts which need greater help, and in terms of what are the multi-channel services that we can put in place. And I think we need to do that very urgently. That shouldn't be something over a 5-year window. That should be something that we should really be getting on with and progressing from now.
Thanks very much.
Nancy, can I add a little to that?
Yeah, please do, Andy. Yeah.
Just very quickly, Nancy. We made some digital services available at the start of lockdown last year, particularly to younger people, and it was surprising how much they were used. So I think Ben is right. We're only beginning to think about it. I think the pandemic has almost dragged us quite a significant distance forward when it comes to the digital delivery of health services. One thought that's very much in my mind, Nancy, is we can't go much further into this space without making digital connectivity, if you like, a right, because you can't start delivering healthcare, I think, in this way unless you are making it available to everybody. So the city region is grappling with some of this at the moment. How do we both encourage more digital delivery, but at the same time make sure everybody is then available and supported to take those opportunities? Otherwise, we might open up a new health divide. So these are very topical questions for us right now.
Yeah, and somebody's asking if we can point innovators in the direction of what you see as Manchester's major healthcare problems, which I'm sure you'd agree we can and would want to, and particularly young innovators who bring forward new ideas. So I think before we go on to the next stage, I've got one other question that's come up a few times. There's loads more questions. We don't have time to answer them all, but there's several questions around how will we measure success? And that's really interesting because in universities, our success is research grants and publications. But for Pankhurst, we want much more than that. And I don't think anybody will want to put a number on it. But one of the successes will have to be real benefit. And I think in general, it'll be part of how the people of Greater Manchester assess the success of our healthcare innovation, given it's top of the agenda for the Greater Manchester Industrial Strategy. Is there something that's made a difference to your lives? Now, people don't always know where they are, but I think one of the things we'll be wanting is innovations that come out of it, a new app that helps young people, for example, to engage, or that deals with women's problems or other issues. I don't know if any of you wanted to comment particularly on that. Andy, did you want to go? And then I'll just see if Chris and Ben have got a final word, and then we'll go on.
There are so many ways in which you could measure that, aren't there, in terms of inward investment, jobs created. But I think I would prefer to look towards how innovation might be quickly made available to the public of Greater Manchester, or how we could engage the public of Greater Manchester in creating innovation in health. I think the extent to which the Institute fosters public engagement with health and the dialogue about health at a community level, I think I would certainly want to see if that were achievable. But I'll finish and maybe answer Helen's question, Nancy. One thing that I would like very much is that it cements Greater Manchester as the leading place for health innovation in the UK, but particularly when it comes to women's leadership in science, in technology. And I think we have come a long way, actually, in a few short years on that topic. But I think we now need to be sending a very loud and clear message out that to the next generation of scientific and technological leaders, particularly young women, this is the place to come. And that for me would be in, say, 4 or 5 years' time. If that was established, then clearly that would be a great sign of success.
That's really important. I'm just starting to get involved in a government project on inclusive innovation. That's not just about women, but it's about all underrepresented minorities in innovation. That's brilliant. I know you have to leave us shortly, Andy, but thanks ever so much for joining us. I'm going to go on now to the next part, and I'm going to hand over to Sami Kaski. We were absolutely delighted that Sami joined us for a chair in AI and health, and Sami's going to tell you a little bit about AI in healthcare, I think.
Thanks a lot, Nancy. Let's see if I can share the screen. All right, you should be seeing my screen now. Yeah, I'm research director for the Pankhurst Institute, and if you have questions to me, I will not be seeing the questions and answers at the moment, so please put them to the box or the chat and I will answer everything afterwards. So artificial intelligence, it's very much in headlines, as we all have noticed, even to the extent that it's becoming a bit boring. So here's a recent revolution, again, from the DeepMind, that everybody who's working on molecular biology or medicine probably noticed, and I believe they actually had another revolution after this. Some enlightened people may have noticed that there have been recent advances in privacy-preserving data sharing on the right here. And what we at least can notice is that many companies and groups, research groups, have become rather good at constructing headlines and getting them through in the press. Obviously, this is not just headlines. So artificial intelligence is giving an essential competitive advantage for basic and applied research at the moment, though the actual work is usually much less glorious than this. What is important to realize is that artificial intelligence is not a ready-made product. It's not ready. It's a research field which advances fast. And the real competitive edge comes with the newest technologies which come out of the research. So what do we have in Manchester at the moment? So we have broad research power of AI-aware researchers across fields, coordinated by the Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. Nobody can do this alone, so we already have partnered with the best national and international players in this field, nationally with the Alan Turing Institute, internationally maybe a main example is the European Laboratory for Learning and Intelligent Systems, ELLIS, and its EU network, ELLIS. To strengthen us in the topic where the competitive advantage comes from, the fundamentals of AI, 3 chairs have recently been established with associated academics, and there are some new bigger plans to make this part even stronger to support the Pankhurst Institute, so stay tuned to this. So the particular opportunity that Manchester has, which has become clear in the talks before me, is connecting its top-notch health research to the burning health and care needs. So here Pankhurst is the key element as we have heard, and AI is its engine. It's an engine. So we need to have a hybrid vehicle. So there needs to be other engines, maybe not too many, but AI is a main engine there. For that, we require data and ease of use of the data. And we need the links to both the artificial intelligence and healthcare companies to partner with in developing the final products and services. So what will we then actually do in artificial intelligence and with artificial intelligence? So I will not have time to even try to be comprehensive. So I'll mention 3 examples with big opportunities. The first one is for the availability of data, which is a key bottleneck. We recently released a method for producing synthetic twin data sets with mathematical guarantees that privacy will be preserved if the synthetic twin is shared. So now it is possible to share sensitive data with collaborators and maybe even publicly. So what these methods do is they obfuscate the data, but preserving their important properties while doing the obfuscation. So we still need to tell the method what is important in the data. And for that, we need modeling of the data, probabilistic modeling of the data. But now that we can do. So this is one of our core competencies. So now we have transformed, opened the door to new kinds of opportunities in using probabilistic modeling to do synthetic twin datasets that can be shared. That's one example. Second example is personalization, starting with personalized or precision medicine, whereas we of course know the task is to tailor treatments to an individual patient based on molecular and clinical measurements. And now what is in the core of this problem is actually a data analysis challenge. So based on the data set where we have the known answers, the treatment effectiveness, learn a predictor of the effectiveness that generalizes to new patients. Sounds simple, obviously it's not simple to do this well. The statistical challenge there is that we typically have too few samples compared to the number of potentially important variables to do this statistically well. It's also important to personalize to the patient or the person who wants to help with life choices, which is obviously not a new idea on this level. So even the early Nokia phones, which are now almost extinct, they boasted with health assistant apps. And obviously, personalization is not only a data analysis task. Obviously, domain experts are needed. So we need tools that also personalize to the needs of the doctor. So many machine learning systems can do something here, but they typically consider the human as a data source. This is what is called so-called human-in-the-loop machine learning. In this example that you see here, the predictions of treatment effectiveness are improved by gathering information from an expert with the goal of maximal improvement with minimal number of questions. The implicit assumption here still is that the expert is a passive agent who just answers the questions. For recommendation engines, people often talk about user modeling, meaning that different users have different interest profiles. But we need to go beyond that and appreciate that we are, or at least we think we are, active agents with goals and goal-oriented agendas. And furthermore, to be really helpful, the artificial intelligence systems would need to understand that we are active agents who know that the other agents have their agendas as well, including the AI assistant. So we would attribute to the AI assistants agendas, even if they don't have them, and if they realize this, they will be able to help us better. I promised 3 examples, so here's the third one. The big problem here is how could the artificial intelligence system help in complex design and decision-making tasks, which we cannot or do not want to completely automate. The standard approach at the moment would be to develop an automatic AI decision-making system and then try to add on top of it techniques for humans to understand it, make it understandable. This would be called explainable or interpretable artificial intelligence. This is difficult. It has many problems. An alternative way would be to develop AI assistants with the task of helping the human, not automatically solve the problem, helping the human, and the human makes the final decision. So the trick or the nice property here is that now the artificial intelligence system will only be useful if it can make itself understandable to the decision maker. So this needs context-specific personalization, user modeling of new types, and so on. So this can now be formulated as a highly exciting modeling problem, which we are working on at the moment. So this will not be simpler than the standard approach, but hopefully will yield additional opportunities, open new doors. So that's it. I very much welcome contacts from partners interested in working with us on these and other problems. And thanks a lot. I'll give the floor to the next speaker.
Thanks ever so much, Sami. And I think we now have a video from Julie Goff, the Advanced Materials Lead on New Materials and Health and Care.
Hello, I'm Julie Goff, Professor of Biomaterials and Tissue Engineering based in the Department of Materials at the University of Manchester. And I'm here today to talk to you as the Advanced Materials Lead for the Pankhurst Institute. In this topic area for the Pankhurst, we're talking about materials or biomaterials that are used in healthcare. The word materials to many people means those materials used in the automotive or aerospace industries, or the nuclear industry, or those used in engineering generally, such as the construction of bridges and so on. But they of course include the many materials that are used in healthcare, whether they are implanted into the body to repair or replace diseased or damaged tissues and organs, or whether they are used to interface with the body, such as catheters and dialysis equipment. In this context, we must mention Sir John Charnley. He graduated in medicine from the University of Manchester in 1935 and went on to develop the hip replacement in the 1960s to combat the debilitating disease of osteoarthritis. This is one of the most widely recognised uses of advanced materials or biomaterials in the body today and is used throughout the world. Other well-known examples include pacemakers to regulate the heartbeat and the pumping of blood around the body, and stents to open up blocked diseased blood vessels. So there are many diseases that are treated with the use of biomaterials, too many to mention here. But also, unfortunately, as humans, we are rather accident prone and vulnerable to trauma due to recreational injuries, as shown by this image sequence of my nephew breaking his arm skateboarding, and the resulting metal alloy bone plate that was used to repair it. Sporting injuries, which can result in hard-to-heal cartilage and ligament injuries, and home and workplace injuries that can result in nerve, tendon, and other soft tissue injuries, and so on. So biomaterials for repair of the body have been around for decades, but they take a frustratingly long time to get approved and to market. As researchers, we have to cross the so-called valley of death, where there are significant barriers and a drop-off in resources and support to assist the essential translation of basic science to a clinically available product. Many great ideas really do get lost in translation here, and with the new medical device regulations, this has become recently more complicated and even prohibitive for some small companies. Therefore, with the Pankhurst Institute, we will be able to speed up this translation of products from lab to clinic for academic researchers, industry, and the NHS. An excellent example is a project born and completed right here in Manchester, Polynerve. It's an example of a multidisciplinary research effort which has just completed its phase 1 clinical trial in 16 patients at Wythenshawe Hospital, South Manchester, thanks to our collaboration with Adam Reed and his team. It's a polymer-based conduit or tube for peripheral nerve repair, and in this case it means the traumatic sensory nerve injuries of the hand, where nerves in the hand and fingers have been severed due to injury. Now, very importantly, it's cheap to make and also easy to make and is sutured into place. It's been significantly designed with grooves on the inner lumen to enhance the regenerative capacity of the damaged nerve. Now, it took around 12 years to get to this stage, beginning with a PhD student project, but with the Pankhurst Institute, these kinds of ideas will be vastly speeded up by providing the right support, the right answers, and the right solutions to the many hurdles that exist between that lab-based idea and the clinic. Now, the next steps for this particular product are to gain funding for further trials and to license the product to a relevant medical devices company, which of course can now be done with the help of the Pankhurst Institute. So what key materials and technologies are researchers at Manchester currently investigating that could benefit from the Pankhurst Institute? Well, these are very wide-ranging and far too many to include in this talk, but here are some examples. We've got materials for early cancer detection. Wouldn't it be amazing if we can diagnose cancer far earlier than we can do currently? Bioelectronics and biosensors for early disease prediction, disease progression and multimorbidities. Point-of-care devices in clinical settings and wearables outside of clinical settings. We can have better models for disease processes to improve our understanding and be better placed to offer alternative or improved treatments. We've got 3D printing, additive manufacturing and other manufacturing techniques for precise and patient-personalised implants. These include fibre technologies for development of tissue engineering scaffolds from all kinds of materials and to treat all tissues and organs in the body. We're from Manchester, so we can't go without talking about graphene and the graphene family of nanomaterials. And these will include other 2D materials and other nanomaterials for healthcare applications. Targeted drug delivery, so getting the drugs to the site of the disease and avoiding systemic side effects. Smart contact lenses to diagnose disease. And generally cheaper technologies for developing countries and to address healthcare inequalities, which is a topic very much in the hearts of Manchester researchers. And of course, the combination together of these 3 key Pankhurst research areas of digital technologies, AI, and advanced materials really are technologies we can deliver are limitless. So this is exactly where the Pankhurst can help, and exactly one of the reasons for its existence. With the help of the Pankhurst, we can speed up the translation of these new materials and devices, from assistance right at the start of our basic applied research in our laboratories to the final stages of getting products into the NHS. Together with our partners, including the Henry Royce Institute for Advanced Materials and our Advanced Materials in Medicine network of over 100 Manchester-based academics and researchers, and of course our national and international collaborators and colleagues, we really are in a perfect position to make that difference. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Julie. And I hope your internet's still with us, which is why you recorded, obviously. I'm going to go on now to the next presentation, which is Professor Niels Peek, Digital Health Lead, on the transformational role of digital.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Let me start by sharing my screen. So I hope you can see this. And I'm going to talk about digital health and care, the digital health and care program as part of the Pankhurst and the transformational role that has. So for those who do not know me, my name is Niels Peek. I'm Professor of Health Informatics and also Strategic Research Domain Director for Digital Health. I lead the digital health program in the Pankhurst. So digital health actually has a very long history at the University of Manchester, and that started already back in the 1980s when Alan Rector in computer science was working on clinical decision support technologies. Today we've got more than 350 academics with an interest in digital health. For some of that it's the core of what they do, for others it's slightly more peripheral, but we have really a huge community, and we've got strength and breadth and activities across all the three faculties. So science, engineering, biology, medicine, health, and humanities. So in the last few years, we've been forming a community among all those people that work in the area, using the Digital Futures Health and Care theme and the FBMH Strategic Research domain in digital health. Now, those domains will be stood down in the near future, but we're going to continue all the activities of the theme and the domain in the Pankhurst. So the strength, I think, of this area in Manchester also emerges from the fact that we have a very large portfolio of externally funded research from UKRI, Innovate UK, European funding, charities and others. We've got very strong links with various existing translational infrastructures like the Biomedical Research Centre, the Patient Safety Translational Research Centre and the ARC. And we've got strong collaborations with Health Innovation Manchester and with a large number of NHS partners in the region. So the way that we tend to look at the domain of digital health and care is through basically three broad areas: algorithms, systems, and people. So the algorithms area is the domain of deriving new algorithms from data. So that's where people with a background in computer science, stats and maths, engineering are active. The second broad area is about systems, and it's all about how we can use those algorithms to change clinical care pathways. For instance, improving prevention of disease through prediction models, or providing better diagnosis through AI solutions, or for instance, predicting the response to treatment. So in the systems area, we're trying to change healthcare services. The third area is about people, about individuals. And that's where we look at the health and well-being of individuals and how we can support that and improve that using digital technologies. Again, the algorithms fuel that, but in a very different way. And obviously, those three areas are strongly connected with each other. They don't exist in isolation, but they have to work together in order to work optimal. And that's exactly where the challenges are, I think, in this broad area of digital health and care, and where the Pankhurst is going to be extremely important to support exactly those connections between these three areas. So we already have a very broad portfolio of projects across this entire spectrum of digital health and care. I've listed a number of projects here on the slide. I'm not going to go through all of them with you now. And it's certainly not complete, but it illustrates, I think, the strengths that we have in Manchester and the flurry of activity that exists in this space. So we've been talking a lot today about translation and the challenges that are associated with that. And this is one of my favorite slides that I've been using for a long time to illustrate, I think, what is one of the issues here. Because if you want to translate things, it does mean that you have to go from one domain to the other. And in this case, we have to connect the domains of technology and the domain of health. And you can see from the terms that I've listed here, and these are just examples, how challenging that is. So in the domain of technology, we typically speak about things like data, AI, apps, etc. Whereas in health, we talk about things like health inequalities, multimorbidity, real-world evidence. Now, how do you connect those two worlds? That's extremely challenging, and it takes a lot of courage. So I had 3 students that kindly helped me to create this slide. They all got their degree, by the way. But you can see how hard it is. And it does require teamwork, because these three guys, they have to work together in order to make it happen. And I think also this is one of the things that we will work on in the Pankhurst in order to create new workforces that can build these bridges, because we have too few of them. So another way to look at this is in terms of technology readiness levels. And I saw some questions in the chat about that. I think someone asked, so where is your sweet spot in terms of TRL, technology readiness level? And my answer to that is, I don't think there is, and I don't think there should be, because I think all these different levels are important. So for those who are not familiar with this, it was developed a couple of decades ago by NASA, and is now used across many different domains of technology to basically classify the maturity of new technologies. And that goes all the way from basic technology research to the situation where a new technology has been launched and is operational, so in operational use. And that is obviously what we want to achieve with new digital technologies in health. But it's a challenge, and I think one of the things that we're as a university still struggling with, and that's not unique to Manchester, I think that is something that all academic institutions across the globe are struggling with, is to connect here the different areas, to connect those different TRLs. So I think one of the objectives for the Pankhurst is to do that better and make sure that the brilliant things that we do in basic science actually get translated to early phase clinical research, and finally to routine use, to implementation. So I'm going to finish with 2 slides about what we are going to do now. Well, that is obviously once we have sobered up from drinking all the champagne today. So the first thing is that we're going to develop what I call health data facilities. And this relates to some of the things that have been mentioned in the chat as well. So I think many people on the call are aware that access to real-world health data is one of the main barriers to progress in digital health and care. And typically the complex governance around data protection and security can cause significant delays to projects. And actually, it's sometimes, quite frequently, unfortunately, a reason not to progress collaborations at all. So I was actually on a call yesterday with colleagues from China, where this was an issue that was discussed, and it emerged that very often people decided not to progress collaborations just for this reason. So what we're going to do is try to improve that through a hub and spoke model with the 3 research active NHS trusts in the region, so MFT, the Christie, and the Northern Care Alliance. And the goal is to enable efficient collaboration in data-intensive research, both applied and methodological. Now, this model that we're going to set up doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to give everyone direct access to all the data that exists. That is not, I think, what is feasible, and neither what we want. But I think we can use smarter solutions than we do today to solve this problem. And obviously, we're going to work with Sami and his team and use, for instance, synthetic twin data sets to give people access, at least to data on which they can develop their models and their scripts. So the other thing that we're doing, in the process of doing, is setting up a joint translational center for digital health between the University of Toronto and University of Manchester. So as you are probably aware, Manchester has a strategic partnership with the University of Toronto. The mission of this new center is to advance the field of digital health in Canada and the UK through research and training in order to realize the development, implementation, and translation of inclusive and equitable technologies, policies, and service delivery models. So that is in the making, and I expect that we're going to formally launch that center, which will operate at the Manchester site entirely under the banner of the Pankhurst in the next few months. So that brings me back to Manchester. This is my last slide. So here we're back in Manchester where the sun always shines, as you know. Feel free to get in touch directly with me or through the Pankhurst website. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you ever so much, Niels. And really important that you brought in the international context, because this isn't just about Manchester, it's about our international collaborators. I liked your slide with the poor students. And I think it was Lloyd George who said you can't cross a chasm in 2 small jumps. And one good way of doing it is collaboratively. Let me now go on to welcome Richard Deed, Research and Innovation Health Accelerator on the ERDF project. So Richard, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody can see that? Yes, Nancy?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Associate Commercial Director at Health Innovation Manchester, working closely with a lot of the people you've heard already today. And Health Innovation Manchester, myself, plus our funded partners in this new innovation program, are really kind of pleased to be here today at the launch of the Pankhurst Centre and to talk to you about something that's actually here and now, the Our Rni Accelerator, and how it directly aligns with the Pankhurst Centre's objectives, and maybe as an example of some of the types of activities that the Pankhurst is going to actually carry out. This, sorry. The new Our Rni project was only funded at the turn of this year, and its aim is really to improve how small and medium-sized enterprises and innovators collaborate and work together with research infrastructure in Greater Manchester. And over the course of the 3-year project, it will engage with SMEs across the spectrum of the TRL levels, as you've heard from Niels there, to address barriers to adoption and to actually create lasting collaborations. And those collaborations we're going to really focus on with the technology readiness level at 5 to 9. It's going to be built upon the experience of the project partners, which are Health Innovation Manchester, Manchester City Council, BioNow, Manchester University Innovation Factory, and of course the University of Manchester itself. But it will also be working with the other higher education institutes, University of Bolton, University of Salford, and Manchester Metropolitan University, plus some of the large key stakeholders in kind of Greater Manchester, such as MSP Bruntwood. And it's got a budget of about £4.5 million on a 50-50 basis, match basis between the partners. And that's what it's about. How is it actually going to do that? Well, we all know that, as people have already said, bringing innovations through that kind of tortuous process is quite a challenging kind of complex problem. And in healthcare, that's a really complex and highly regulated kind of sector. So there are a number of challenges and roadblocks. And we believe through our unique partnership of the partners that you see in this program, we can actually provide support to actually remove some of those roadblocks at crucial stages of your idea and development pathway. So that's what we aim to do. How are we actually going to do that? Well, over the course of the 3 years, we intend to provide support from all of the partners involved in this accelerator program through 2 levels of support. The first level is kind of some basic support that companies and SMEs can actually access. And really that's about understanding the healthcare system, engaging with the actual academic kind of system, helping you develop your value propositions, participating in various activities to actually further you along. Now we'll be able to offer that to all kind of eligible companies and innovators in Greater Manchester, but that will only get you so far. The second level of support that we will be offering is detailed here in this slide. And really, we can't offer that to everybody, so it's going to be offered on a competitive basis. It's really kind of to go to that next level where you're going to do develop R&D proposals, do collaborative projects, work on health economic analysis, business case development. And we have experts involved in all of this kind of in our organizations that actually can help companies and innovators to do that. Of course, doing it, saying we can do it is one thing. One of the other things that we're going to do is going to have a number of catalysts that we actually are able to provide. And you can see some details of the catalyst here. We have a 24 small kind of Kickstarter type catalyst. We have a number of larger ones to the value of £20,000, which can actually be used for the activities there. And we've also got a number of funded postdoc research associate or kind of access to facilities type grants that we can provide from the University of Manchester. The other universities haven't got that kind of capability yet, but we are actually looking at evolving that with the other universities as well. We know that these are relatively small steps that can be taken, but we know from our experience kind of working with some companies in the last couple of years that these small steps can often lead to, you know, much bigger investments and developments. And a number of our companies that we've been working with over the past 2 to 3 years have either gone on to raise multi-million-pound deals in private or kind of grant funding, or we've actually managed to help them kind of spread and adopt their products across the whole of kind of our local ecosystem. So the criteria for engaging with our RNI Accelerator, and because it is the ERDF, is it must be that you are trading from the Greater Manchester area. You've got to be addressing a significant clinical need, because that's what we're all here to do, is address those clinical needs. And we have a number of priority areas which are listed there. And also, anything you do must actually accelerate the commercialization of your product or your service, and ultimately intend to lead to economic growth. And you've actually got to be prepared to work with the partners in the program. So in summary, and if this is the only thing you take away from today, this is a unique opportunity here in Manchester now on a fully funded project which allows collaborative innovation between all of the parties and all the partners involved in this project. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, there's a web link there that you can kind of click on, and it will tell you further details, because we've only got 5 minutes to talk about it here. If you want to talk to anybody, we've got a couple of people there that are identified from the 2 of the key anchor kind of organisations, BioNow and Health Innovation Manchester, that you can engage with. And we've also got a form on our website which allows you to register for interest. Now, of course, we will be working very closely with the Pankhurst as it evolves and develops, but this is in some respects almost a forerunner of some of the activity you can expect to see in the Pankhurst. So thanks very much for your time today, and it's a great pleasure to be here, and I think we've got a great opportunity here in Manchester.
Thanks very much indeed, Richard. That was a great summary. We are slightly ahead of time, just got a few minutes ahead. So we've got lots and lots of questions. Rather than going to them all, we'll try and do written answers. But there are 2 people who've patiently had their hands up throughout. And if they're still here and we haven't answered their questions, I was going to see if Janine Woolley from EPSRC wanted to ask a question. And then I think Mary Roberts from BioNow, who Richard just referred to. Janine, are you still there, and have we answered your question?
Nancy, can you bring in Kath and Neil as well?
Yes. Hello, Kath, and I think you weren't there earlier, were you? But Kath and Neil, Kath Mackay, who is from Alderley Park, and runs Manchester Science Partnerships there, and Neil Hanley, who's the Vice Team for Research and Innovation in the Faculty of Biology, Medicine and Health, are with us as well, if they want to make any comments. So let me just see first if Janine is still there and still has a question.
Yeah.
No, maybe not. Mary Roberts, Mary, you were referred to in the last...
Janine's there, but muted.
Can we unmute them? Can we unmute Janine?
Oh. Sorry, it's Janine. Yeah, sorry, I raised my hand by accident. I haven't got a question, but thank you so much for your presentations. It's an absolute interesting institute that you are running, and we are so happy to be part of it. But I haven't got a question, so thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for joining us. And Mary Roberts from BioNow, did you want to add anything? Can we unmute Mary Roberts?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
hello, Mary.
I'm sorry, the Zoom updated itself, and I think it raised my hand. I didn't intend to do that.
Oh, okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So let me just ask then, don't worry, if Kath Mackay or Neil Hanley wanted to add anything, if we can unmute Kath Mackay and Neil Hanley.
Thanks, Nancy. I'm here as part of Bruntwood SciTech, and we are a part of Manchester Science Partnerships, and we operate City Labs in conjunction with the Hospital Trust. And We've a number of health and technology businesses in the GM region in our portfolio, so we're absolutely thrilled to be part of the Pankhurst and be a supporting partner. If I can just echo some of the comments that have been raised throughout the presentations. I mean, it's fair to say that Manchester has real critical mass now from a business point of view in digital, in medtech and advanced materials. So it's such a great time for this institute to launch. And I think that something that's been picked up as well is that it's notoriously difficult for businesses in the sector to navigate the system. I've worked with SMEs for a number of years, and it's actually very difficult to get the right support to trial products and services in a clinical setting. We all know that science and innovation doesn't stop at the bench, and actually product development and commercial translation require a huge effort, a wide variety of skills, and often with interdisciplinary approaches. So I think the Pankhurst is going to be a valuable addition and gateway in supporting this commercial translation.
Thanks ever so much. Neil Hanley, did you want to add anything? I'm not quite sure when you joined.
So I've been here. So
good. I
guess I would make just a few comments really, and that is to emphasise. So I'm vice dean for research and innovation in the faculty, as you highlight. But prior to that, I was the equivalent role in the Manchester University Foundation Trust, and starting in the latter role, but continuing now, we set up a clinical data science unit in the trust, and I think the bit to stress is that bit of going right from the academic through to the patient. And in that sense, the unit we set up in the trust it's like a hub and spoke. So it's the spoke to the academic excellence that sits within the Pankhurst Institute, but in a way, it's also the hub for the access to the clinical data. So it's that two-way interaction that's key. And I'd maybe just like to highlight one example for that, if I may, for COVID, and that's the work with Thomas House, who I think is on the meeting and will now no doubt be getting embarrassed. But Thomas is in mathematics in the university, and at week 1 of the pandemic, we dragged him over to the trust and set him up in an office, and he modeled our data for us on COVID admissions with his team, with his PhD students. And it's been an absolute revelation. So not only have Thomas's models been spot on and really helped shape what is now Greater Manchester's response, actually, we've expanded it so that we're doing this on a Greater Manchester level. But I think just the way in which we went around the collaboration was really nice. And so I think I would stress the interdisciplinarity here, that it's health, and yes, we think about patients, but it's actually also health about how we think about hospital operations and how hospitals function. So there's actually massive opportunities here, as well as the commercial partnerships that others have touched on, you know, all of which driving that whole levelling up and economic growth piece. So I think it's really exciting.
Thanks ever so much indeed. And I keep hearing Thomas's praises sung in terms of his predictions, which have been remarkably accurate. So I'm going to hand over to Chris in a second. I just want to finish by saying, firstly, thank you to everybody. Clearly, the key themes of the Pankhurst are going to be innovation, implementation, not just thinking up good ideas, but making sure they land. Obviously, diversity and engagement, but also, which we haven't talked about, but which came up in the questions, sustainability. And that's sustainability in 2 aspects. One is obviously sustainable healthcare systems, i.e. affordable healthcare systems for everybody. And the second is sustainability in terms of net zero and climate change. And all of these are possible as we could shift to new materials, new technologies, new digital applications. So I do want to say thank you to everybody, and somebody who hasn't been thanked, which is Chris, who I'm going to hand over, who has managed this baby through its adolescence and now got it to this point where it's a very exciting stage. So let me hand over to Chris to just close and tell you about next steps. Chris.
Thanks, Nancy. And I can assure you, I wasn't expecting to speak for 10 minutes on next steps. So yes, thank you. The thought of an adolescent baby is a bit frightening, but let's put that aside. So I really just wanted to thank everyone. I see a large proportion of those who started have stuck this out to the end, which is very gratifying. Thank you very much for doing so. Thanks ever so much for all the comments we've got in the chat and in the questions. If you've got the chance to still hang on, I have been busily answering some of the questions in the Q&A. But we'll do some more work on these after the event, and we'll send a compendium out to everyone who's attended. So the final word is really, please do get involved. Go to our website, email us. We really want to engage. So thanks, everyone.
So thank you again, Chris, and everybody who's been involved. And quite rightly, as people said, how will we measure our success? We'll be looking regularly at the outputs from Pankhurst and looking forward to them as one part of a huge ecosystem of health and care across Greater Manchester, but also, of course, with international collaborations and wider impacts. So thank you very much indeed, everybody. And thanks for all the thanks. So I think we're on time and we say bye-bye.